Faith unseen. Karoline's silent strength, the studio lights shimmered gently over the set of The Truth Unveiled, casting a warm glow that softened the modern, minimalist decor of the space. Tonight, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation as a live audience, seated in an intimate theater-like setting, waited in hushed excitement for what promised to be a transformative conversation. At the center of it all sat Karoline, a woman whose serene composure and quiet conviction had become synonymous with a deeply personal, unshakable faith. Known for the genuine way in which she lived her beliefs every day, Karoline rarely relied on outward symbols to define her spirituality. Instead, her truth was revealed through her actions, her compassion, and the steady integrity with which she met the challenges of life. Across from her, behind a sleek, polished desk, sat Michael, a seasoned reporter with a reputation for incisive questioning and a penchant for confronting his subjects. His eyes, sharp and discerning, held the expectation of uncovering any hint of vulnerability or inconsistency in Karoline's carefully guarded persona. Michael had built his career on the belief that every public figure was, at heart, a tapestry of contradictions waiting to be exposed. Tonight, he intended to test the limits of Karoline's unspoken truth by challenging the notion that faith could exist without visible symbols. "Karoline," Michael began, his voice measured, yet carrying a subtle edge of provocation. "You've often spoken about the depth of your faith, how it is the cornerstone of your life, guiding you in every decision and action. And yet, tonight we see you without the conventional markers of belief. No cross, no outward tokens. Can true faith be seen without symbols? How do we know that your conviction isn't just a well-crafted facade?" A murmur rippled through the audience as Karoline's gaze met his steadily. There was not even a trace of agitation in her eyes, only a calm certainty that had been honed through years of introspection and quiet perseverance. She took a measured breath before replying, her tone soft and resolute. "Michael, faith, real, enduring faith, is not something that can be reduced to what we wear on the outside. It is an internal journey, a personal dialogue with one's spirit that shapes every choice we make. My life, the way I treat others, and the decisions I make in silence are the true testaments of my beliefs. I do not need to adorn myself with symbols to validate what I hold dear." The question hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment, silence reigned across the set. Michael's eyes narrowed ever so slightly as he leaned forward, his tone growing sharper. "But isn't it expected, especially in these times, for someone in your position to offer tangible proof of your beliefs? Many contend that without the visible emblems, a cross, a pendant, or some other mark, your faith risks being dismissed as mere lip service. How do you respond to that critique?" Karoline's expression remained composed, her gaze unwavering as she allowed the silence to stretch just long enough to emphasize her next words. "I understand that many find comfort in tangible symbols. Yet, if faith were measured solely by what is visible, then every medal or token of success would be mistaken for righteousness. I choose instead to let my actions speak for me. I devote my time to community service, to mentoring those in need, and to supporting causes that lift others up. These acts, often done away from the public eye, are my true symbols. They reveal the heart of my conviction far more profoundly than any ornament ever could." A ripple of thoughtful applause moved through the audience, and Michael's pen hesitated above his notepad. He pressed on, his voice now tinged with a mix of skepticism and genuine curiosity. "Yet there are those who argue that in today's polarized society, where every nuance is dissected, remaining silent on contentious issues can be seen as a form of indifference. They claim that by not vocalizing your stance on critical matters, you risk allowing injustice to fester unchecked. How do you reconcile your quiet approach with a need for public advocacy?" The studio lights seemed to dim imperceptibly as Karoline paused, her eyes softening with a trace of vulnerability. "I do not equate silence with indifference," she said, her voice clear and deliberate. When I choose not to raise my voice in a manner designed solely for spectacle, it is because I've chosen to channel my energy into actions that create real change. I work tirelessly behind the scenes, supporting mental health initiatives, nurturing underprivileged communities, and ensuring that every child has the opportunity to thrive. My silence is not empty. It is filled with purpose, compassion, and the persistent drive to make a difference. Michael's expression revealed a flicker of frustration as he continued his line of inquiry. But in a world where noise is often mistaken for truth, isn't there a risk that your message may be lost? Without the dramatic display of symbols, how do you ensure that your voice is heard by those who need to be inspired? Karoline leaned forward slightly, her eyes meeting his with a quiet intensity that seemed to draw the very air from the room. I have learned that the most profound changes are not heralded by loud proclamations, but by the steady, often unseen acts of kindness and courage. It is in the quiet moments, the actions taken without fanfare, that true transformation occurs. I choose to live my faith in a way that is consistent, authentic, and enduring. If my actions inspire even one person to look beyond the surface and find the deeper truth within themselves, then my approach has succeeded. The tension in the studio shifted as Michael absorbed her words. His usual arsenal of probing questions seemed to lose some of its bite in the face of her unwavering conviction. Yet, determined to press further, he shifted the conversation to more personal territory. Many have speculated about your past, about the choices you made that might have led you down a different path. Some even suggest that your steadfast silence is a way of hiding vulnerabilities or past regrets. Can you share a moment when your faith was truly tested? A time when you had to stand firm in the face of overwhelming doubt? For a long moment, Karoline's gaze drifted as though she were revisiting a chapter of her life that had been etched into her soul. Then, in a voice that resonated with both sorrow and resolve, she began, "There was a time, not long ago, when everything I believed in was called into question. I experienced a loss so profound that it shattered my world, leaving me to wander through days filled with pain and uncertainty. In that darkness, I questioned everything, my faith, my purpose, even my very identity. But it was in that moment of raw vulnerability that I discovered something essential. Faith is not the absence of doubt, but the courage to confront it. Every trial, every moment of despair became a stepping stone on my journey to find a deeper, more resilient truth. I learned that true faith is forged in adversity, and it is that truth that now guides every decision I make." Her words hung in the air, carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. Michael's features softened, a hint of introspection replacing his earlier skepticism. "So you believe that adversity is not a weakness, but rather the very crucible in which your faith was refined?" He asked quietly. "Yes," Karoline replied firmly. "It is through hardship that we learn who we really are. When life strips away all the distractions, the superficial markers, what remains is the raw, unfiltered essence of our beliefs. I embrace that truth, even when it is painful, because it is in those quiet, solitary moments that my faith has grown strongest." The studio audience, previously divided in their opinions, now seemed united in silent admiration. Yet Michael, still striving to provoke, leaned forward once more. "Critics argue that in a world as divided as ours, public figures must take unequivocal stances on issues of injustice. They say that your quietude might be seen as complacency, a refusal to stand up against the wrongs that afflict society. How do you respond to those who demand bold, outspoken advocacy?" Karoline's eyes shone with a gentle fire as she met his gaze. "Change is not always the result of a loud outcry," she said steadily. "There is a time and place for every form of expression. For some, protest takes the form of spirited demonstrations and vociferous demands for justice. For others, it is found in the quiet, persistent work of healing, of building bridges in communities that have long been fractured. I choose the path that aligns with my inner truth, a path of service, compassion, and quiet resolve. I do not seek to create headlines with bombastic statements. I seek to make a lasting difference through consistent, meaningful actions. A ripple of approval spread through the room, and even Michael appeared momentarily taken aback by the depth of her conviction. Sensing an opportunity to drive the conversation to its final challenge, he asked, "Some say that in today's media landscape, where every word is dissected, clarity is paramount. How do you reconcile your subtle approach with the need to offer clear guidance on issues that affect millions? Do you believe that your quiet strength is enough to inspire change, even when your voice isn't raised for all to hear?" Karoline's response was deliberate and heartfelt. "Clarity is not measured by volume," she explained softly. "It is measured by the consistency of one's actions and the authenticity of one's character. I believe that when we act with genuine compassion, when we extend kindness without expectation of recognition, that is the most powerful form of guidance. I do not need to shout my beliefs for them to be understood. If my life, through every quiet act of service, every small gesture of care, can inspire even one person to search for a deeper truth within themselves, then I have fulfilled my purpose." For a long moment, the room was silent, a silence heavy with contemplation and respect. The cameras captured the serene determination on Karoline's face, a face that bore the marks of life's struggles, yet shone with an inner light that could not be dimmed by external scrutiny. Michael's expression, once so confident and assertive, now revealed a trace of vulnerability, a subtle acknowledgement that his well-worn assumptions about public faith were being challenged in real time. In the final moments of the interview, as the studio lights dimmed ever so slightly and the set prepared to transition to commercial, Michael offered a soft, reflective nod. "Thank you, Karoline," he said, his voice stripped of its earlier edge. "Tonight, you've given us all something to ponder. That true faith isn't about what could be seen on the outside, but about the quiet, persistent actions that define who we are." Karoline's response, measured and sincere, echoed in the hushed space. "Faith is not a performance. It is a journey, a commitment to live by the truth in every small, unseen moment. I hope that my life can serve as a reminder that real change is built quietly, one compassionate act at a time." As the cameras faded to black and the applause of the live audience swelled into a resounding ovation, Karoline rose gracefully from her seat. Backstage, producers and crew members exchanged awed glances, aware that they had witnessed a moment of rare authenticity, one that would resonate far beyond the confines of the studio. In the days that followed, clips of the interview spread across social media and news outlets, igniting discussions about the nature of faith, authenticity, and the power of quiet conviction. For many viewers, Karoline's calm, measured strength became a beacon, a reminder that the deepest truths are often found in the silent, everyday acts of love and kindness. Meanwhile, Michael found himself re-examining his own approach to journalism. The encounter with Karoline had not only challenged his assumptions, but had also shown him that sometimes the most profound stories are those that require us to listen closely to the quiet voices among us. In the end, Karoline's journey continued beyond that single, transformative interview. She returned to her work in community outreach, mentoring those who needed a guiding light in a turbulent world, and living her faith with unwavering integrity, proving time and again that true strength is not measured by outward displays, but by the enduring impact of quiet, heartfelt actions. And as the echoes of that evening continued to inspire countless conversations, one undeniable truth emerged. In a world obsessed with spectacle, the most powerful form of leadership is the kind that speaks softly, yet changes everything. If you found this story thought-provoking, remember that authenticity is not defined by what we show the world, but by the unyielding commitment to live our truth, even when the noise of society demands otherwise. Stay true to your journey, and let the quiet strength within guide you, even in the silence.